Welcome back to CyberTechHaus. I am glad you are joining us as we move into Module 2, Fundamental Security Concepts. In this module, we will build on the basics we covered earlier and explore some of the most important ideas in cybersecurity. Think of these concepts as the building blocks of security. They are essential to understanding how and why we protect data, networks, and systems. By the end of this module, you will have a solid grasp of these core ideas, giving you a strong foundation as we continue into the more advanced topics. So let's dive in and start mastering the fundamentals of cybersecurity. Mentioned earlier, this module builds on the basics we have already covered and dives into some of the core ideas in cybersecurity. It covers the essential building blocks that help us understand how and why we secure information. Here is what we will explore in this module. Number 1, goals of information security. We will start with the primary goals: keeping information safe, accurate, and available when needed. These are the foundations of why cybersecurity exists. Number 2, identification, authentication, authorization, and accountability. We will break down the steps for verifying who is accessing the system, confirming their identity, and ensuring they only do what they are allowed to do. Accountability means we track their actions. Number 3, categorizing security controls. Security controls are actions or tools we use to protect information. We will look at the different types and purposes of these controls. Number 4, conducting a gap analysis. Gap analysis helps us identify any missing pieces in our security measures. Essentially, it is spotting weaknesses before they cause any kind of trouble. Number 5, we'll be looking at zero trust, a modern security model where we don't automatically trust anyone or anything inside or outside our network. Everyone has to prove their trustworthiness every time. Number 6, physical access control. Here we will focus on securing physical spaces, such as using locks and access cards to control who enters restricted areas. Number 7, physical security personnel. We will discuss the role of security staff who physically protect an organization and how they support overall security. Number 8, deception technologies. These techniques trick attackers by creating fake resources or systems, leading them away from the real targets. And lastly, we'll look at change management. We'll wrap up with how we manage changes in systems or policies to keep security strong and prevent accidental weaknesses. By the end of this module, you will have a solid understanding of these key concepts, giving you the groundwork for tackling more advanced topics. So let's dive in and start building a strong foundation in cybersecurity. The goals of information security. Information security professionals are crucial in protecting the information and systems that are often an organization's most valuable assets. One common framework for understanding the goals of information security is the CIA Triad, which stands for confidentiality, integrity, and availability. These three functions are central to the role of information security in an enterprise. Confidentiality ensures that only authorized individuals can access sensitive information and resources, which is a key focus of cybersecurity, preventing unauthorized access or disclosure of data. Most people associate cybersecurity with confidentiality, and security professionals devote much effort to maintaining it. When confidentiality is breached, unauthorized parties gain access to sensitive information without the owner's consent, a situation known as disclosure. In addition to confidentiality, information security professionals are responsible for preserving the integrity of an organization's data. This means preventing unauthorized changes, whether from intentional tampering by an attacker or accidental disruptions. Maintaining integrity is vital to ensuring that the information remains accurate and reliable. The third pillar of the CIA Triad is availability, ensuring authorized users can access information and systems when needed. Without access to critical business resources, operations can be severely impacted. Availability threats often come in denial of service DOS attacks, where malicious actors try to overload or crash a system, preventing legitimate users from accessing the necessary data or services. Confidentiality, integrity, and availability form the foundation of adequate information security. Authentication, authorization, and accounting, or AAA. As security professionals, one of our primary responsibilities is ensuring that only authorized individuals can access the information, systems, and networks we protect. The access control process consists of three key steps: identification, authentication, and authorization. It is crucial to understand each of these steps. The first step, identification. It involves the individual claiming their identity. No proof is required at this stage. It is just an identity assertion. For example, in a physical setting, if you want to enter a secure office building, you might walk up to the security desk and say, "Hi, I am Charles Mukibi." It's important to note that this is merely a claim that could be false. The second step is authentication, where the individual provides proof of their identity. In our office building, for example, this could be showing a driver's license to the security guard. In this step, the system verifies the individual's identity. However, authentication alone doesn't grant access. The third step is authorization. It ensures the person can access the system or area. For instance, the security guard might check a list of appointments to confirm your access rights. It's essential for exam preparation to distinguish between identification and authentication clearly. You should be able to identify which phase a mechanism belongs to when given an example. Now, let's explore how these steps work in the digital world. Typically, when logging into a system, we identify ourselves with a username, often derived from our real name. The authentication step usually involves entering your password. There are other authentication methods which we will cover later on, Robust access control systems often combine multiple authentication methods. In the digital world, authorization is often managed through access control lists or ACLs, which define the permissions granted to individual users or groups for the file system. Users must go through identification, authentication, and authorization to access resources. In addition to these steps, access control systems provide accounting capabilities, allowing administrators to track user activities and review logs. This trio of authentication, authorization, and accounting is called AAA or AAA. Choosing the right mechanism for each step and considering the environment is essential when designing access control systems, particularly in modern setups where cloud and on-premises systems coexist. You will need an identity and access management system capable of functioning across both environments. While the process we have discussed focuses on how individuals gain access, it is important to remember that these processes also apply to systems authenticating to each other. Later in the course, we will discuss how systems use digital certificates for authentication. Now, let's turn our attention to categorizing security controls. When we talk about security controls, we are really talking about all the tools, processes, and strategies security professionals use to manage risks. These controls are put in place to help reduce the chance of something going wrong, to limit the damage if it does, or to spot issues when they arise. To understand security controls, let's start with an analogy: securing your home. Think about the steps you take to keep your home safe. You probably have locks on the doors and windows to keep people out. Perhaps you have a burglar alarm to alert you if someone tries to break in. And maybe you have security cameras to record activities. Maybe even automatic lights that makes it look like someone is at home. You might ask your neighbor to bring in your mail, and that is a security control. These are all examples of security controls in action. Each one plays a role in keeping your home safe. For instance, locks are a preventive control because they stop intruders from getting in. An alarm, on the other hand, is a detective control because it alerts you if something happens. Security cameras are detective controls too because they record intrusions. Using multiple layers of security like this is called defense in depth. Layering several controls to improve security. So even if one control fails, like if someone disarms your alarm, another control like the camera still works. Of security controls by purpose. In cybersecurity, we categorize controls based on their purpose or what they are designed to do. Let's start with preventive controls. These are like the locks on your doors. They stop issues from happening. In cybersecurity, this might be a firewall blocking unauthorized traffic. Then we have detective controls. These detect and alert us to issues like an intrusion detection system, IDS, that flags suspicious activity. And then we have corrective controls. These help us fix problems after they have happened. An example is data backups that let us recover lost data after an attack. And then we have deterrent controls. These are like having a guard dog or barbed wire. They discourage attackers by making security breaches harder or riskier. And then we have directive controls. These are instructions or policies that guide actions. For instance, a security policy is a directive control that outlines what's allowed and what isn't. And then lastly, we have the compensating controls. When a primary control isn't enough, we use compensating controls to fill in the gaps. For example, posting a guard at a vulnerable entry point can enhance security when other controls aren't strong enough. Security professionals categorize controls by mechanism of action. For example, technical controls. These rely on technology to secure systems like firewalls or encryption. They are like a digital barrier that automatically works to protect data. Operational controls. These are processes managed by people to help secure systems. Think of log monitoring or user access reviews. These need people to actively monitor and manage them. Here's tip number 1. Remember that people handle operational controls while technology manages technical controls. Managerial controls. These are about managing risk. They include risk assessment, security planning, and integrating security into everyday business processes. And then there are physical controls. These impact the physical space, like fences, locks, and perimeter lighting. There are the literal barriers to protect the physical environment where technology operates. Each type of control is crucial for a strong security strategy, covering different aspects of risk management and threat prevention. By using a mix of these controls, we can create a comprehensive defense against risks, similar to how different security measures work together to protect your home. Now, let's discuss gap analysis, a core tool for planning and improving a cybersecurity program. Gap analysis is all about identifying where we currently stand in security and what needs to be done to reach our goals. Here is how it works. The first step is to define your desired state. First, think about your desired security state. This is your goal, the level of security you want to achieve. To define this state, consider internal policies and external requirements. Internal policies. Your organization might have rules like encrypting data or using multi-factor authentication to secure access. External requirements. Some laws and standards set security requirements depending on your industry. For example, HIPAA. You must follow HIPAA for privacy if you handle health records. GDPR. If you process data from the European Union, GDPR applies. PCI DSS. If you manage credit card data, PCI DSS is a must. These internal and external rules give you a full picture of your target security level. And the second step is to assess your current state. Next, you need to closely examine where you are now. This involves reviewing your security controls by conducting an internal review or hiring a consultant. The goal is to get an honest picture of your security posture. Then, step number 3, compare and identify gaps. Now you compare your current state with your desired state. Any areas where your current controls don't match your desired security level are called gaps. These gaps show what's missing or needs improvement to meet security goals. The fourth step is to create a remediation roadmap. Once you have identified the gaps, the next step is to prioritize them and building a roadmap for fixing them. This roadmap will guide your actions, showing you what to tackle first and aligning your security improvements with your organization's needs. This roadmap can span multiple years depending on the complexity and resources, providing a clear strategic path of security improvement. By conducting a gap analysis, you can systematically address missing controls and keep your security program aligned with both internal goals and external regulations. Let's talk about Zero Trust, a key security model that has changed how we think about network security. The main idea behind Zero Trust is simple. Don't automatically trust any user or device just because they are inside the network. It's about applying the principle of least privilege, which means giving users only the access they need, nothing more. Here's why Zero Trust matters in today's world. Users and data are everywhere, at home, in the office, on the cloud, or on mobile devices. We can't rely on old methods that assumed users inside the network could automatically be trusted. Instead of using network-based identifiers like IP addresses, Zero Trust uses strong authentication and authorization. This way, access is based on a user's role and their needs, not where they are. How Zero Trust works. Think of Zero Trust as dividing the network into two layers. Layer number 1, control plane. This is where decisions about access are made. Layer number 2 is the data plane. This is where access is granted based on those decisions. The control plane decides whether a user should access something, and the data plane enforces that decision. There are 4 main capabilities of Zero Trust systems. 1. Adaptive identity. Zero Trust adapts to different user roles and allows for changes as roles evolve. Number 2. Threat scope reduction. Zero Trust keeps the environment simple, reducing complexity to lower security risks. Number 3. Policy-driven access. Access rules are flexible and can change as the organization's needs change. Number 4. Implicit trust zones. It creates secure zones for sensitive data like personal information and credit card details, ensuring only authorized users have access. Let's look at Zero Trust model by NIST, the National Institute of Standards and Technology. NIST offers a helpful model to understand Zero Trust. When a user called the subject tries to access a resource, their request goes to a policy enforcement point, PEP. The PEP doesn't make the decision itself, it only enforces the rules. In the control plane, a policy decision point, or PDP, has two parts: policy engine, which makes the access decision, and then there is a policy administrator, which tells the PEP how to enforce it. This process is the backbone of Zero Trust. It ensures that every access request is carefully evaluated. Introducing Secure Access Service Edge, or SASE. Zero Trust alone is powerful, but it can be taken further with SASE, the Secure Access Service Edge. SASE combines network and security services into a cloud-based model. Here's how it works. SASE blends software-defined network, or SDN, cloud security blockers, firewalls, and other security tools. Think of SASE as a big picture, long-term strategy for securing networks. While Zero Trust is something we can start using now, for today's cybersecurity professionals, the takeaway is clear. Zero Trust and SASE are essential trends. In the short term, focus on adopting Zero Trust to secure remote work and cloud services. And in the long term, plan for the SASE model, aligning new projects with this flexible, future-ready approach. We are now turning our attention to physical access control. When discussing physical access control, we focus on protecting a facility's physical space. The goal is to deter, prevent, and detect intrusions before anyone can access secure areas. Let's explore the main methods used in physical security and how they keep facilities safe. Locks, the basics of physical security. One of the most common security tools is the lock. Locks control who can open doors or entry points and only allow access to people with the correct key. Here's how different types of locks work. Preset locks. These use a specific key, and only that key can open the lock. Critical management systems help track who has the key and record any changes if a key is lost or stolen. Cipher locks. These locks use a keypad where users enter a code to unlock the door. Biometric locks. These locks identify users based on their physical traits or characteristics, like fingerprints or retinal patterns. Card-based locks. These use cards such as magnetic stripe or proximity cards to grant access. Tailgating and man traps. A big challenge with physical access is tailgating. When someone with authorized access holds a door open for someone else who may or may not be authorized. To counter this, access control vestibules or man traps are used. Man traps have two doors. The first door closes behind a person, and the system verifies that only one person is inside before opening the second door. This stops unauthorized people from sneaking in behind someone with access. And then we have sensors. Sensors detect movement and presence. Organizations use various sensors to monitor and secure areas. Then we have motion sensors. They detect movement in restricted areas. Noise sensors. Noise sensors pick up unusual sounds like glass breaking. Pressure sensors. They detect footsteps, helping identify someone's presence. Microwave and ultrasonic sensors. These use advanced waves to detect people's presence, even in challenging conditions. Video surveillance. Video surveillance is essential for monitoring and securing a facility. Cameras. Visible cameras deter intruders and monitor activity in sensitive areas. They can be part of the CCTV or IP-based systems. Infrared detection. Some cameras use infrared to identify heat signatures in low light conditions, making them useful at night. Video footage. This is invaluable during security investigations to see who was present in an area during an incident. Perimeter security, keeping unauthorized people and vehicles out. To prevent unauthorized access, facilities also use physical barriers. For example, fences. These keep out unauthorized people and vehicles. Cages, often used in data centers to secure equipment, especially in shared spaces. And then we have the bollards, B-O-R-L-L-A-R-D-S. These strong posts prevent vehicles from crashing into buildings or pedestrian areas. Other protective measures include lighting. Bright lights make it easier to spot intruders and deter trespassing. Warning signs. These warn people against trespassing. Industrial camouflage. Sensitive facilities may blend into the surroundings to avoid drawing attention to themselves, especially with the rise of drones which capture aerial views. In summary, physical security controls are all about layering defenses. From simple locks to advanced surveillance systems, these controls work together to ensure that only authorized people can enter secure areas while potential threats are kept out. Physical security personnel. In physical security, technology like cameras and access control systems is important, but human security personnel also play a critical role. People bring judgment and intuition that technology alone can't match. Here is why human guards are essential. Number 1, evaluating access and monitoring. Security personnel decide who can enter a building, using their judgment to evaluate and approve visitors. While technology can assist, there is really no replacement for human decision-making in spotting unusual behavior or handling unexpected situations. Number 2, creating a welcoming atmosphere. We can all agree that security guards also make the environment more welcoming. They might look like receptionists, but they are often responsible for monitoring entry and ensuring security behind the scenes. In some cases, organizations may use uniformed guards to provide a visible sense of authority. This helps communicate a strong security presence to visitors and staff. In certain locations, these guards might even be armed, depending on local laws and security needs. Number 3, robot sentries. In addition to human guards, some organizations are starting to use robot sentries. These robotic guards can patrol areas, detect suspicious activity, and either confront the intruders or alert human personnel for assistance. While robots can monitor and gather data, still humans handle the critical decisions. Let's talk about the two-person rule. For extra security in highly sensitive operations, organizations use the two-person rule to add layers of protection. The rule has two variations. Variation number 1, two-person integrity. This requires two people to be present when accessing sensitive areas, like a room with variable items. Having two people there reduces the risk of theft or unauthorized actions, since one person would need the other's cooperation. Variation number 2, two-person control. This rule requires both people to agree and act together before performing a sensitive action. A very good example is launching a nuclear missile, where two people must turn two keys simultaneously. The keys are positioned far apart to ensure that one person can't act alone. In summary, while technology is valuable, human presence and judgment are irreplaceable for maintaining physical security. Systems like the two-person rule add extra layers of security for high-stakes situations, ensuring that critical actions are only taken with multiple people's involvement. Deception technologies. In cybersecurity, analysts are always trying to stay one step ahead of attackers. Deception technologies are tools that help security teams trick attackers and catch them in the act. Let's explore some common deception techniques used in cybersecurity. Number 1, darknets. Darknets are unused parts of a network that are intentionally left empty. Since legitimate users don't access these addresses, any activity in the darknet likely comes from an attacker probing the network. It's like having a tripwire that signals suspicious activity for closer investigation. Number 2, honey tokens. Honey tokens are fake records placed in databases or file systems. For instance, a database might contain a phony email address that directs messages to the security team. If someone sends an email to that address, it is a clear sign of unauthorized access. Honey tokens act like digital bait to lure intruders. Number 3, honey files. Honey files are files that look valuable to attackers but contain useless or misleading information. They are designed to tempt attackers into thinking they have found sensitive data, but instead they set off alerts that let security teams know an intruder is snooping around. Number 4, honeypots and honey-nets. A honeypot is a real system on the network that is set up to attract attackers. It might have tempting names or fake information, but it is monitored as a trap. When an attacker tries to break into a honeypot, it alerts the security team. Honey nets are collections of honeypots across the network, creating a larger trap for attackers. It's like setting multiple traps to catch attackers wherever they strike. Number 5, DNS sinkholes. When malware infects a system, it connects to a command and control server to receive instructions. A DNS sinkhole routes any traffic aimed at these malicious servers to a safe server instead. This alerts users and logs the infected system's activity to administrators so that administrators can take action. In short, these deception techniques let cybersecurity teams create traps that confuse attackers, catch them in action, and respond to threats more effectively. They turn the tables on the attackers by feeding them false information while alerting security teams to the threats. We are going to conclude Module 2 by looking at change management. In the world of IT, change is constant, from software updates to network changes. Everything we modify has the potential to impact security and stability of an organization. This is where change management comes in. Change management is a structured approach for planning, implementing, and monitoring changes to reduce risks and ensure smooth operation. Here are 7 key steps in change management. Step number 1, the approval process. Any proposed change should go through a clear approval process. This means each change is evaluated, authorized, and documented, helping to avoid unauthorized changes that could cause security issues. Number 2, assigned ownership. Each change needs an assigned owner responsible for overseeing it from start to finish. This person ensures the right people are involved and keeps the process organized so there is clear accountability. Number 3, involving stakeholders. It is important to ensure the right stakeholders. People like IT staff, systems admins, and security professionals who can assess how the change might impact the organization. Getting input from these key players ensures that changes are carefully considered. Number 4, impact analysis. Before implementing a change, we conduct an impact analysis. This identifies any risks, vulnerabilities, or conflicts that might come up, helping the organization make informed decisions and plan precautions. Number 5, testing. Testing verifies that the change will work as expected without causing disruptions or security issues. This step fine-tunes the change before it's applied in the real environment. Number 6, the backout plan. It's essential to have a backout plan in case something goes wrong. If the change creates issues, this plan helps you roll back to the previous state with a minimal impact. And then number 7, scheduling and standard operating procedures. Let's start with scheduling. Scheduling changes during specific maintenance windows ensures minimal disruption to business operations. Number 2, following standard operating procedures or SOPs, it keeps the change process consistent and secure, making sure each step is completed correctly. Now let's look at technical considerations in change management. From a technical standpoint, there are specific things to keep in mind. For example, adjusting allow and deny lists. We may need to adjust permissions to control what activities are allowed or restricted. Restricting unnecessary services. We might need to disable unneeded services to enhance security. Downtime and service restarts. Some changes might cause downtime or need services to be restarted. Planning and communication are key to minimizing disruptions. It is important to take a closer look at the legacy applications. Older applications might not handle changes very well, so we need to have and take extra care to ensure they stay secure. Managing dependencies. Many changes impact other systems, so understanding dependencies prevents unexpected issues. Let's talk about version control and documentation. Version control. Keeping detailed records of each change helps track, investigate accidents, and audit. Updating documentation. After each change, it is crucial, very, very important, to update, for example, diagrams, procedures, and policies. Accurate documentation ensures everyone has up-to-date information, simplifying future troubleshooting. In short, change management is all about planning, implementing, and monitoring changes to make systems better without introducing new risks. It helps IT teams keep operations secure, stable, and well documented. Well, students, coming up next is Module 3, Cryptography Part 1. In this module, we'll build on the basics we have covered and dive into some of the most critical ideas in cybersecurity, specifically cryptography. Think of these concepts as the building blocks of security, and that understanding them will help you understand how and why we protect data, networks, and systems. By the end of the next module, you will have a solid grasp of these essential ideas, setting you up for success as we move into more complex topics. Thank you so much for watching, and see you in Module 3.